My name is Bernard Roberts from California, Pomona. This is my collection. I have Martin Luther King front page, but I have a signing of his wife, Coretta Scott King. The date is 5/28/93. Coretta Scott King. I have a book here, I Dream the World. I have an authentic signature of Rosa Parks. I Dream a World. I have a picture of the Klan calling out for their people to come and organize. I have a white power meeting in the city of Buffalo, 1974. You can see the swastika signature, and it's signed by Carl Hand Jr. I have a picture of Angela Davis when she was very young, short afro at that time. I have the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, again the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, the insignia, signed by Don Black. Interesting, Ku Klux Klan, signed by Don Black. Grand Wizard. I have a NAAWP newspaper, National Association of White Power. National Association of White Power. The New White Minority. I have the KKK victory in DC. White power. White people, please wake up. Wake up. I have an envelope. Power. Patriot Press, P.O. Box 11. Needham Fire, Louisiana. I have another White Power magazine. You see the swastika in the middle? Stop Black Welfare Now. Stop Black Welfare Now. You see White Power in the corner? Racist, White Power magazine, I should say newspaper, bleak, special presentation. Another White Power newspaper, swastika in the middle. Angry White Fights Back. You can see the military vehicle with the swastika on the back of it. I have a Compton Avenue Elementary School Area B documentary. Dan Lawson, Vice Principal. Vice Principal. I have a Muhammad Ali versus Superman comic book. It's a very large one. The death of Dr. Martin Luther King. There was many riots throughout the country, and this shows you where the riots were at. I have a piece of paper regarding details how to stop Negroes back to Africa, how to shop them, how to ship them out. And then I also have another paper, The Real Problems in DC. I have another White Power paper, Dump Israel, White Revolution. I have one more item, the Negro Freedom Rally, which was held in Madison Square Garden in 1944. There are various people that were there, such as Duke Ellington and Pearl Primus. They focused on racism, Jim Crow, and anti-Semitism. So it was a very nice piece, 1944, held in Madison Square Garden. What got me into collecting was the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics, World Olympics. I happened to be a staff member at the boxing venue. And then from there, we used to trade pins from different countries. So I used to trade pins. And then from there, I started really specializing in boxing. And then from there, I started doing a little more studying on how important it was, but how also it could be an expensive kind of a situation. I can get an investment from it. And that's where I started. This history is not spoken in schools. It's kind of embarrassing sometimes when they mention slavery in schools, and because it's not presented correctly, and knowing how important it was for us to spend our days from Kansas City in the morning to Kansas City at night for free to build this country up, man. We are such an investment here that has been neglected. And to see how Jim Crow is still alive and well at today's times, it started getting better, it's gotten worse. Especially when this Donald Trump was president, it kind of empowered a certain right race to get more empowered to really give us a lot of harder times. And we should stand up, and we should be very knowledgeable of our past and our present history.
Hi, Gene Alexander Peters. I'm a collector of African American history, historical artifacts. My specialty is slavery, but I do any kind of historical information on African American history, particularly World War I, African Americans during World War I, the Marcus Garvey movement from the early 1900s, and also coming down into Madam C.J. Walker items, some of my specialties, and Black Panther pieces from the founding of the Black Panther Party in 1966. I have a lot of other things in my collection, but those are some of the main areas of which I'm heavily concentrated, and I've been featured at different museums and like the Schomburg, what have you. Today, I have a couple things just wanted to show. This would be a full body manacle. This would be the restraint that would go around the person's neck. And as you see, it comes down with a coupling, and it would then be outstretched going to the wrist, the outstretched arms of the person. It's authentic. It's probably from about the 1830s, 1840s. I say that because it was purchased from an estate that was out of Arkansas, but again, in terms of the true provenance, that would not be known, but it's definitely from the South, and as the close-ups will show, it has the rustic patina and metallurgy, and these would have been the manacles that would have been around the person's ankles. So it's a full body manacle set, and the unique thing about this is that it would have been covered in leather, and we see the depictions in the photographs of when our ancestors were enslaved and in bondage, where they had the neck restraint going to the full arms and then the separate coupling for the ankles. It would have been covered in leather. All the leather has been deteriorating at this point, but I wanted it in the collection only because it then documented the abuses that had been done to our peoples. I'm going to wipe my hands off so that I could show you The other things that I brought that might be significant today would be Liberator newspapers. The Liberator was an abolitionist newspaper published by William Lloyd Garrison, a white man who evidently had a conviction and for the cause of anti-slavery. So William Lloyd Garrison founded the Liberator newspaper and published it for about 30 years, a well-known abolitionist newspaper. In fact, Frederick Douglass, before Frederick Douglass started his own newspaper, did work with William Lloyd Garrison with Liberator. So these are authentic Liberator newspapers. They were full folio, all full 4 pages. And we can get close-ups later, but we'll see the main thing about the Liberator is that it was probably the most prominent of the African-American, well, of the anti-slavery newspapers. Again, not African-American published, but in the cause of African-American peoples. And the unique thing about it is the masthead, which was really prominent, and I would say at least respectful in terms of giving a true and accurate look to the sufferings of our people. Again, published by William Lloyd Garrison, and I have several that I did bring, making available from the years, several from the years 1854, a few from 1855, a few from 1858, a few from 1859, and a few from 1864. So I just wanted to bring a kind of random sampling of a couple things in the collection that were available. And lastly, I did also bring 2 original Black Panther newspapers. Again, we know the Black Panthers were founded in California in 1966. And I'm a personal fan of the Black Panther Party because although I was too young to be part of the movement, I'm definitely one in terms of black advocacy and fighting for the cause, whatever that fight may be or to whatever level, but also in terms of the importance of the Black Panthers to be known that they were the first ones starting social service programs for our people with their daycare center, with the Black Panther food program, with the Black Panther ambulance program, with the Black Panther work drives. So again, a lot of people may know what's always been depicted as to violence of the Panthers, but again, I'm looking to it in terms of violence begets violence, but they were truly for the cause and for the people. So here are 2 original Black Panther newspapers. One is from 1969 and one is from 1971. And they're full, they're authentic, they're, period to the time. But when I do my collecting, I always like to have things that are very, number one, authentic, but number 2, that kind of tells the story and captures just what we were about in terms of self-empowerment, self-improvement, self-advocacy, and again, speaking truth to power. So I thank you for your interest in African American history and the cause of our people.
Why do you think that this stuff is so uninteresting to our people?
Good question. As an educator, I'm recently retired, but I've been an educator for over 25 years before even starting my consulting company and working at the university. And you do get that kind of feedback, pushback from a lot of people. It's obviously people's level of understanding or lack of understanding. So I don't challenge it per se because I understand that. And I'm also not one to disparage our people for their lack of understanding or their lack of awareness. My challenge, my goal is to make them get an appreciation, make them get an understanding. So the folk who got it, beautiful. They're ready to take it to that level. We do know, unfortunately, a lot of our people may not have gotten it, don't really understand. So that's my challenge. Why I think it is, I think it's because a lot of people obviously haven't been educated or haven't been educated in the right way. When, as you share, they're interested in knowing a lot of the contemporary things, pop culture. When you can, as a historian, bridge pop culture and show its, number one, historical underpinnings, or make it interesting. So if you're telling me about something, what I say, pop culture kind of just nonsense. But now I can then put the importance to that, or the historical importance to that, or in particular the media. I'm always going to shift it because the media is kind of showing you what they want you to think and how they want you to think. When you can kind of deconstruct that and then show those same brothers and sisters, hey, this stuff you're looking to now, these are some of the things that were looked to before, and this is why it was promulgated. It's not boring because I always like to know when I'm being bamboozled. I always like to know when my mind is kind of being influenced, whether consciously or not. If another person does not, fine, but again, I like to have the full awareness so that I understand the reasoning, be it subtle or intended or unintended, behind it. So that's why I try to make it interesting, and then I usually then will cite something where they think it's boring, but then when I then, put my spin in terms of why it's actually of interest and why it's actually important to know that, I think that's where the important, the understanding comes. So that's the kind of thing where if they're saying it's boring, I like to understand where do they see the boringness in knowing about what our people did before? Where do they see the boringness in knowing when we won, as opposed to them always talking about we've never won anything? Or in terms of where is it boring when they're trying to tell you that we're not about anything, that they being white folk or any oppressive society or oppressive people. If even it's our people oppressing, okay, I want you to know who the oppressors are, who the naysayers are, because there's a whole bunch more than the negativity. So I want to get a better understanding as to where they see the boringness of it, and then kind of go in on that. If we never come to an understanding, that's cool, but I've never had occasion where they didn't at least leave learning something or being at least more broadly aware of something before. So I'll even stipulate that it's still to the level of that person's understanding, but now they're hearing it again with my spin, or as I see it, again, it's only person A, person B, it's all good. I've been collecting things, I think all my life. My mother would say ever since I was a little guy, I used to always, go to flea markets with her and collect old soda cans and Coca-Cola bottles and magazines, particularly folks. So, I've been, I guess, passionate as to, I'm old school and old souls, so being passionate in terms of getting old things, focusing particularly on African-American history. I'd say probably the early 90s, so, it's going on about 30 years now, dating myself. But, I minored in African-American history in school, and I've always been passionate about our cause and the cause of black folk and our peoples. So in college, I was able to at least, put some kind of mastery to that, and then kind of just marrying the two, interest in terms of my passion for collecting and now passion for collecting artifacts of our history. And being a historian, which I am, I was always interested in the more historical depictions of our people. A lot of people collect different things in terms of caricatures or memorabilia, or salt and pepper shakers, and domestic items. So everyone has their specialty in it. My specialty and passion just happen to be historical things. So that would be paper ephemera, obviously the tangible items. And when I can find something of historical note and significance, and then as a researcher do some, corollary research with it, bring it into bear, make it make sense as opposed to just the static item. And again, that's how I first started my consulting company, in terms of getting an item, doing some research on it, and now presenting it to people who've never seen the item and also may not even be aware of the circumstance. So now they're kind of, getting, two bangs for the buck. The most prized possession that I've had, and I'll answer it like this, at the National Museum, there is the North Star newspaper, the National Museum in DC, the National African American Museum in Washington, and I was proud to say that actually came out of my collection vis-a-vis a gallery. So that's a North Star newspaper that was one of my prized possessions. But I was glad to, be able to, have it, with the National Museum. I have several things, but I'd say probably the most, one of the most prized possessions is probably some of my Marcus Garvey pieces. I have an original UNIA medallion that's really rare, and that was from the Marcus Garvey Universal Negro Improvement Association, and probably a first edition Madam C.J. Walker handbook when she was using it to train the students in her school. Again, turn of the century, about 19, early 19, mid 1900s, 1910s, 20s, in the 1910s, 14, 15 in there when she first started her school. So I think some of the more precious things would be my Marcus Garvey piece and my Madam C.J. Walker piece. But in addition to my slave shackles, which are always, near and dear to my heart.
And those pieces are in the museum, you said?
Just the North Star. The other pieces are, with me in my personal possession. The North Star is at the National Museum, the Frederick Douglass North Star.